Welcome, customer. What can I get you? Hey there, I'm here for a retro handheld. Oh, well, good news. I have a whole bunch of retro handhelds for sale. What's your budget? Well, that depends. What's the price? Well, that depends. What's your budget? Well, that depends. What's the price? Well, that depends. What's the budget? Well, that depends.
1 week later.
Hey there, how's it going? I'm TechDweeb, welcome. The tech world is crumbling. Sorry, I probably should have eased into the topic, but I mean, it's no secret. The tech world is kind of imploding right now. AI data centers are hoarding up all the chips, all the RAM, all the storage, leaving nothing but crumbs for the rest of us. Heck, even my smart toaster doesn't have enough RAM. I had to settle for the base model. It can only toast one side of the bread. But here's the thing, retro handhelds were already kind of a ridiculously good deal before all this. These things are pretty special, like a little device with a built-in screen, battery, controller, and a surprising amount of muscle under the hood. And honestly, I think the shortages might actually slow down new handheld releases for a while. Which means that what we have now is probably what we're going to be working with, at least for some amount of time. And that's actually fine because what we have now is genuinely great. So today we're talking handheld prices. How much do you actually need to spend in 2026 on a handheld? And what should you buy at each budget? I'm going to cover all of that today. And it's not even going to cost you nothing. You need that money to buy retro handhelds. Obviously, the amount you'll spend will reflect your needs. Maybe you don't know your needs yet. Maybe you don't know anything about anything. I can't help you with everything, but I'll try to help you figure out your needs in this video. But let's say, for instance, that you want to play your favorite PS2 games. You're not ever going to be happy with something super cheap, even if it plays a bit of PS2. And vice versa. If you only want to play old Game Boy and Super Nintendo games, getting a top-end DOODAD would be a waste of money and leave you with buyer's remorse, considering that you can get a great experience on something way cheaper and save money that you can spend on whatever it is that normal people spend money on. I'm going to give you some price ranges, and then I'll tell you what you can get at those price ranges, what kind of an emulation experience you can expect, what systems you can play, what kind of device quality you'll get, and then I'll leave it up to you to determine what's important to you. I mean, I'm not here to tell you how to spend your money. I'm probably the worst person to do that. I spent my cat's ear medicine money on an overpriced smart toaster that only toasts one side of the bread. I obviously can't be trusted. Starting with the sub $50 handhelds. This is very much an entry-level category, and at this price you can actually get a surprising amount. Not that long ago you couldn't get full PS1 performance under $50, but now most budget devices carry at least the RG35XX chipset, which handles every PS1 game no problem, plus a good chunk of Nintendo DS, Nintendo 64, and Dreamcast, and PSP. Not every game for those systems obviously, but getting most of the early 3D era plus all the classic retro stuff for less than my posh aunt's Starbucks order, that's kind of insane. NES, Game Boy, Super Nintendo, Genesis, GBA, arcade, all that stuff in your pocket for under 50 bucks. Build quality is one area that you're going to be making some sacrifices at this price tier. But honestly, I'm pretty impressed with what's down here for the price you're paying. If I was on a tight budget, I'd have no problem grabbing one of these and never looking back. My main picks are actually two doodads, the R36S and the R36H. These are basically the same handheld. The 36S is the vertical one and the 36H is the horizontal version. For like 30 to 40 bucks, you get dual sticks, a great 3.5-inch screen, and everything we talked about in terms of what you can emulate. Build quality is not like amazing, but honestly, it's pretty good. Lots of people love these things, and those people are correct. Some runners up are the MIYOO Mini Plus, which is one of my all-time favorite devices and my personal pick at this price range. The MIYOO A30 or the RG35XX if you want something small and pocketable, the RG35XX Non-Plus without Wi-Fi, and the POWKIDDY V10 if you want something more GBA focused. Oh, by the way, I'll have links for all these devices and my videos about them in the thingy down there. Most of the links will be AliExpress for the best prices, but you can go with Amazon if you want it faster and you don't mind paying a bit more, or LitNXT. That's a great reseller with free worldwide shipping and genuinely the best customer service that you'll find from anyone selling doodads, which is a low bar, but they clear it easy. $50 to $100 price range isn't dramatically different from the under $50 range, but you do get more powerful chipsets like the RG3566 and the H700, which means you'll get more games running properly. Not really more systems, you're still topping out around N64 and Dreamcast and PSP, but way more of those games actually work. Most of them, honestly. Your priorities shift a bit here too. Maybe analog stick quality matters to you. Maybe you want bells and whistles like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and HDMI out for docked mode, and external controllers and retro achievements and port master ports. Most devices in this range can also run Newly or Rocknix or even Gamma OS for like Android options, which opens up things considerably. Tinkering is a lot funner when you have lots of choices. But the main thing that gets me about this range is just that the devices are nicer. Better D-pads, better buttons, better plastics, better screens. They feel like something you'd actually be proud to pull out in public if you go outside. This is also probably the range with the most options, since this is where you can find Amberlick's extensive line of XX devices, along with a ton of like POWKIDDYs and others. Standouts for me are the RG35XX Plus. That's kind of like the bread and butter pick here. The RG35XX, if a square screen sounds appealing to you, and it should, it's awesome. The POWKIDDY RGB20S, the TrimUI Brick and the TrimUI Smart Pro, of course, and flippy screen doodads. This is the price range where you're going to find the MIYOO Mini Flip and the MIYOO Flip and the RG35XX and the 34XX and a bunch of other letters and numbers all put together into device shapes and sizes. There's almost too many good options in this range to cover, but honestly, this should give you a solid sense of what your money gets you. Above $100 but under $200 is where things get interesting. At the low end, you're getting essentially all the Nintendo 64 and PSP and Dreamcast with room to upscale. At the high end, you're going to be dipping into PS2, GameCube, 3DS, and even some Switch and PC emulation via apps like GameNative. Don't expect everything from the high end to run at this price, obviously, but the more you spend, the more you get. It's pretty linear that way. All these devices are going to be running Android, which comes with a caveat. Android is a tinkering OS. You're going to need to be installing emulators, loading games, doing some setup stuff yourself. It's not crazy complicated. I have a good video guide if you need something to walk you through it, but don't expect it to be plug and play. Some Ambernick devices do come preloaded, which does help, but even they require a little bit of tinkering at least. Build quality, though, is generally pretty great across the price range. You'll get better controls, better screens, bigger devices, less pocket-friendly, but more couch-friendly. These are like hanging out on a couch playing video games on a Friday night instead of going out on dates handhelds, rather than handhelds you would pull out on a date that you were out on. I don't know how dates work. For picks, at the low end, the MANGMI Air X and the AYANEO Pocket Air Mini are both solid around $100. For the mid-range, I love the Ambernick RG476H. That's a great all-arounder. That's my personal top pick for this category. Also worth considering are the RETROID Pocket 4 Pro, the RETROID Classic, the RETROID Flip 2 with the D1100 chipset, not the Snapdragon one that's more expensive, and even the RGDS if you want to experiment with some dual screen stuff. At the top end, the RETROID Pocket 5 squeaks in at $199. I'd personally go for the G2 version, but that's over our $200 budget, so we make sacrifices. Speaking of which, you barely have enough time to click the subscribe button before the next section. So you should probably... Too late! Alright, this is where things get serious. At $200 to $300, you can expect a device that plays all of GameCube, PS2, and 3DS with a meaningful amount of Switch and PC games on top of that. The amount of RAM you have becomes important up here because 8 gigabytes is the starting point, but you should probably aim for 12 to 16 gigabytes if Switch and PC emulation is super important to you. And that'll obviously push you towards the top end of the price range too. Nothing is off the table at this tier though. You might not get flawless performance on the hardest stuff, but you can at least try everything. And a surprising amount works, and is actually pretty darn impressive. The devices themselves are big and comfy. You'll be getting 6 or 7 inch screens, ergonomic grips, full-size sticks, better speakers, better wireless. These are jack-of-all-trades machines. You get retro games, Android games, modern emulation, and streaming. If you have a gaming PC, you can get a Steam Deck-like experience streaming your games, but with way better battery life. Honestly, if I'm at home and I can stream my games, I'd rather play high-end PC games on one of these than most handheld PCs because of like the gorgeous OLED screens and the battery that doesn't make me anxious. These are my like actually sitting down and playing games devices. There's a lot to choose from, and mostly you're going to be deciding on how much RAM and storage you want. At the low end, you got the RETROID Pocket 6 packing the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, which is a monster of a chip. However, that one only comes in the 8GB variant now. There was some shortages and they canceled the 12GB one, so that's a bummer. The AYANEO ODIN 2 Portal uses the same chip and it's somehow still on sale at around $250. That's my top pick for this price range. It's so good. It's got kind of a ridiculous value. The THOR Lite is fine, but it uses the weaker Snapdragon 865, so temper expectations on Switch and PC stuff if you go with that. Also worth considering is the Conquer Pocket Fit. That's a great one, nice and powerful too. And the MANGMI Pocket Max, which is a unique device. Not the most powerful, but genuinely interesting for its own reasons, and it's pretty cheap. Honestly, at this price, you're gonna get something great no matter what you spend. But if I'm spending $200 to $300, I'm going with the Portal. That thing is, it's so good. I love the Portal. And now we come to the top tier, over $300. The sky's the limit up here. We start at $300 and go all the way up into handheld PCs that can cost thousands. If you have money to spend and you want the best of the best, there's something out there for you. At this tier, you get the best performance available on Android handhelds. More RAM and storage, but really, it's the chipset that sets these apart. AYANEO devices use the G3X Gen 2 or Gen 3, which are monster chips with great driver support. And now we've got devices running the Snapdragon 8 Elite. That's the best Android chip you can get in a handheld right now. However, driver support for the 8 Elite is still maturing. It's new, so compatibility isn't quite there yet. Though it's improving fast, it will get there. If you want something more plug and play, a G3X or a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 device is probably the safer bet though. Also worth knowing, at this level, the bottleneck for Switch and PC emulation is usually more on the emulator side, not necessarily the hardware. There are going to be games that don't run well, or at all, regardless of what you're packing. PS3 emulation is also on the horizon, and these are the devices that you'd want for that, but you're going to be waiting a while. So don't expect a $300+ device to unlock a whole new world of emulation. You'll be playing mostly the same stuff as the $200 to $300 range, just with better performance on the harder titles. Most of AYANEO's stuff lives here in this price range, and yeah, they get flack for slow pre-order fulfillment, and that's fair criticism, although they have gotten better and more transparent. I won't say AYANEO as a company ranks high in my affection, but their devices are some of my favorites. They're expensive, but I wouldn't consider them overpriced. They're very premium, top-end quality, unique designs, interesting form factors. My personal favorite is the AYANEO Pocket Ace, but I also love the DMG and the Evo and the Pocket S and the Pocket S Mini. Pretty much whatever size or shape you want, AYANEO has something. And it'll cost you, because that's AYANEO. For Snapdragon 8 Elite devices, you've got two options, the ODIN 3 and the Conquer Pocket Fit. I'd personally take the ODIN 3 over the Pocket Fit any day. It's one of my favorites right now. It just got a price bump, but I would still rebuy this if mine got dropped in a lake when I was saving a dog from a shark. And of course, we have to mention the AYANEO THOR. This thing has kind of taken over the handheld world by storm, and for good reason. It got a price bump too, and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 version pushes way past $300 now, but considering how good this thing is and how kind of unique and fun it is to tinker with and use, for most people this is probably the one to get. Easily worth every dollar, even though it's got a price increase. It's still so good. But yeah, not cheap. It's none of this stuff is cheap at this tier. So there you have it. That's what you get for your money, and depending on what you need, what you like, what your preferences are, that's what you need to spend to get that stuff. There were lots of handhelds I didn't mention by name that I do love, and I think it's more like, rather than worry about what you need to spend, think about what you want, what you really want, and then pick some devices that do that. Learn about them, check the prices, check my links below, watch my reviews, just pick something and go for it and don't look back. At the end of the day, all these handhelds are amazing, magical pieces of tech that do so much for what they cost. There's very few wrong answers here. Also, at the end of the day, I go to bed because I've been working hard on videos and I'm sleepy, which is what I'm gonna do right now. I'm TechDweeb, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.